Now, in a trial lasting more than 500 days, the Cowichan Tribes have won back fishing rights and title for part of the land on Lulu Island in Richmond. But there has been some criticism. The BC government will launch an appeal. The Musqueam and Tsawwassen First Nations, along with the provincial government and the City of Richmond and the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority, all opposed this ruling. With us today is Shana Thomas, a hereditary chief for the Lyackson First Nation, which is a member community of the Cowichan Tribes. Chief Thomas, thank you very much for being here with us.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
What went through your mind when you first heard about the landmark ruling?
You know, honestly, what went through my mind was just pure joy to know that the information that has been passed down from generation to generation within our Cowichan Nation member communities was finally validated. The truth from our ancestors, the truth from our elders that they have shared over and over, that we have fought for generations to have recognized, was finally validated by the courts.
And how do you see this as a step towards reconciliation?
Well, for us, particularly for Lyackson, and I'm sure the member communities of the Cowichan Nation agree that reconciliation has to start with the truth. And for our communities, there's been a denial of our rights to our territory. There's been a denial of our rights to Latinas. There's been a denial of our ability to access food fish. And now that the courts have declared this validation, we can see that we can start that reconciliation from a place of truth rather than a deficit. Until now, the Crown has approached conversation with us, both federally and provincially, as though what we were saying was not true, as though what we were saying had no validity. And now they'll be forced to come to the table, starting with this court declaration as the truth in which to begin our conversations. And that is going to lead to a stronger reconciliation.
Well, we have been gauging reaction all week. We spoke with Chief Wayne Sparrow of the Musqueam Indian Band this week. He says he's disappointed in the ruling. He says that the ruling cuts into their territory. He says he wished this would have been handled differently. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, I think the reality is that the Cowichan Nation and the member communities of the Cowichan Nation have tried absolutely every avenue available to them to resolve this matter. And we have had no luck. We have had no success. And it is due to the fact that we have not had any success that we've been forced to go to the courts. The Cowichan Nation has gone to the courts. Lyackson has supported that litigation. And that's just a reality of the circumstance. Had there been another pathway that would have produced results, I'm sure that we would have pursued that as well. But every turn, we did not get an opportunity to resolve the issue.
Okay, and why not the BC Treaty Commission?
We were in negotiations in the BC treaty process with Canada and British Columbia, and they just refused to talk about the private land issue, and they refused to talk about the village site.
Well, let's talk about the private land issue. This ruling orders about 7 kilometers of land in Richmond to transfer to the Cowichan Tribes. And this has prompted concerns about private property rights. So what do you make of that aspect?
Well, I think the courts have been really clear that it's Canada and British Columbia's fiduciary duty to sit with the Cowichan Nation member communities and negotiate what that reconciliation looks like. It's not from the courts to say that the private landowners have that duty. It's Canada and British Columbia that have that responsibility. The Cowichan Nation looks forward to having those conversations respectfully and engaging in meaningful dialogue about what that reconciliation can look like.
Still, I mean, the ruling states that the Crown's grants of private property ownership rights over their lands unjustifiably infringe on Cowichan Aboriginal title and need to be negotiated. Attorney General Nikki Sharma said that the ruling has unintended consequences for private property rights. So what will happen to the people who own private land affected by this?
Well, I think really clearly the courts did not invalidate any private land title. The courts made it clear that the province unlawfully granted land that they didn't have the authority to do. They also made it clear that the private land title Act of British Columbia does not invalidate Aboriginal titles. So what the courts have told us is that we have to reconcile our Aboriginal title with the Crown. And I think that's been a consistent message from the courts, whether we look at Delgamuukw, whether we look at Chilcotin, or whether we look at this decision. The courts have been consistent that they need to negotiate. They need to negotiate in good faith, and that's the only way we'll find a resolution. And so that's what we're looking forward to doing.
Okay. And what are you seeing as the next steps in this process?
I think the next steps are for Canada and British Columbia to come to the table and talk to the Cowichan Nation chiefs about how we can implement this decision and how we can come to reconciliation to bring certainty not just to the Cowichan Nation, but to all of the land interests in the area.
Chief Thomas, it's really good to hear from you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is Chief Shana Thomas of the Lyackson First Nation.